If your friends get a vibe, listen. Because the narcissist is really good at finding, if I find the information on you, if I find your vulnerabilities, if I exploit your vulnerabilities, you're going to be, no, this guy's great. He's wonderful. Look, he got me this thing. He listened when I like tulips. He got me tulips. It's like if your friends are getting their spidey senses.
You need to listen to
that. I don't trust me. I incorporate my friends into it. What do y'all think? Are you getting any things? And so, very much trust your intuition and your friends.
Welcome to Becoming Virtuosa, the podcast that encourages you to become your best virtuosa self. Each week, Dr. Susan Crockett goes where the scalpel can't reach, exploring conversations about how to be, heal, love, give, grow, pray, and attune. For the first time ever, she's bringing the personal one-on-one teaching that she shares with individual patients to you on this broader platform. A weekly source of inspiration and encouragement designed to empower you. By evolving ourselves as individuals, we influence and transform the world around us. Please help me welcome board-certified OB-GYN specializing in minimally invasive GYN surgery, internationally in the top 1% of all GYN robotic surgeons, a certified life coach, and U.S. News top doctor, your host, Susan A. Crockett, MD.
Hey, you guys. Welcome back to the Dr. Crockett Show. Happy Tuesday. Thanks for joining me today. I've got a wonderful show for you, and there has been so much interest for this topic. I know you're going to love this conversation we're going to have with my special guest, Jim Denning. Jim is at LPC, and he runs the Denning Center in San Antonio, Texas. And I am so excited to have him on the show today because we're going to talk about a very hot topic right now, narcissism. So welcome.
Thank you.
I wanted to point out that you are an author. You've got your book, Make It to Midnight. You're an expert in suicide prevention.
Correct.
That's kind of your heart.
Yeah. Started out as my niche, and now I've migrated into
helping women avoid narcissistic relationships. Every woman I've talked to about this has been like, oh my gosh, please get this show done.
Yeah.
So that's what we're talking about today. I hope you enjoy it. So Jim, why don't you start by telling us what is narcissism and what do you see in your practice with this? What do we need to know about it?
Narcissism is a personality disorder, and it's really, I'm trying not to use all the big vernacular, but a misperception of consensual reality. So a narcissist and any other personality disorder, but particularly this one, they have a belief system. A narcissistic man believes a woman's mind, body, property, money, all of the things belong to him.
And not in a I own a table, but just there's no boundary. It's all mine.
There's no, and it's just a profound feeling of superiority. And so, of course, I'm superior, so you should bow to me and you should acquiesce to me and you should always do what I say. And if you have an opinion that is different than mine, then you're wrong.
Right.
And that's really, I've got a definition here. It says, since narcissists deep down feel themselves to be faultless, it is inevitable that when they are in conflict with the world, they will invariably perceive the conflict as the world's fault.
Exactly, right?
And so you get caught in this trap where it's, I am always right. I am never wrong. And if you believe that I am wrong, then you must be punished or coerced or convinced that you are wrong.
Well, so this falls into my world. For those of you just joining us, I am an OB-GYN, and in particular, I'm a surgeon. I'm a GYN surgeon in San Antonio, Texas. And, surgeons are notorious. We are notorious for being narcissists. And, it's built into our training. We're not allowed to be wrong. So, of course, it attracts people who have that mindset, and you want your surgeon to be meticulous and always right. But we just tend to see a lot of that personality thing overflow into my specialty. It's interesting.
Well, and a lot of people with narcissistic tendencies also elevate to positions of power.
Right.
Because they're looking for a situation that validates what they feel. Okay. If I feel superior, then I need to be superior. Unfortunately, a lot of times they'll go into military or law enforcement where that's kind of fostered.
Yeah.
And then which is fine, but except they bring it home.
Where it really becomes a problem.
Right.
Because then it turns into a relationship issue.
Correct.
Which is really the fun part of what I wanted to talk with you about today, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about this thing about pathologic love relationships.
Right.
Did I say it right?
Yes, pathological love relationships.
So this is a new term to me.
Yeah.
And, I know DSM from way back, but I don't keep up with things like that. And so I'd never heard this term pathological love relationship. But in your world, this is something that's almost synonymous or is synonymous with a narcissism and a codependent pairing.
Right. And so, so somebody in, a narcissistic relationship or a pathological relationship, something pathological is obsessive and compulsive, not like, I guess it's kind of like obsessive and compulsive disorder, but you can't help it. They're pathological, a pathological liar, a pathological cheater, a pathological gambler. They cannot control their compulsion to do so.
Okay.
And so the person the person that's the narcissist has the pathology. The person who is the partner of the narcissist gets caught up in, for lack of a better phrase, their distortion field, their artificial reality.
Yeah.
And so if the narcissist feels they're superior, then they will continue to punish, berate, coerce the person they are with to believe that with them. And so they will make them believe they're inferior, they're never going to find anybody else. The emotional roller coaster, keeping them constantly off balance.
The gaslighting.
Oh, gaslighting is, if you haven't seen the movie Gaslight, where the term gaslight comes from, it's a phenomenal movie. And it's basically the guy is just intentionally trying to make his wife think she's crazy so he can inherit all her money. Because if she passes away, the money goes to the relatives.
Yeah.
But if she goes to an asylum, he gets to keep the money. So he spends the whole movie trying to make her think she's crazy.
Oh my gosh.
And it's a phenomenal movie. But that's what, the problem with the narcissist is they believe it. And that's where really people get stuck, is that the narcissist actually believes these things. They think they're superior. They think they're better than everybody else. And when the world doesn't believe them, they get frustrated. And that frustration comes out
as anger or manipulation, rage, physical abuse, all kinds of stuff.
Because if that facade collapses, their entire world has collapsed.
Yeah.
So, and they've also got a very profound fear of rejection. So they've got to project this facade out into the world that they're greater than they are. They have more money than they have, or more famous, whatever it happens to be. They're projecting this facade. And then they come home and take all of that negative energy and dump it on everybody else.
So this sounds like a horrible type of thing. And, from my perspective as a gynecologist, I'm dealing with women all day. Mm-hmm. And I have a lot of husbands that come in. I get to see a fair number of couples. And it's interesting because it's usually around surgery, which is kind of a stressful thing. Yeah. And so it's fascinating for me to see the couples that come in. But I see the women so often, so frequently. This looks like it's kind of happening. And so I was wondering what you think about, or what you see in your practice about, is this something that's increasing in our society? Yeah. Is it something that it's always been there, but we're just learning more about? What do you think's going on with the trending?
I think it's just a boundless sense of entitlement. And I think there's a lot of debate of how social media plays into it, getting likes and things like that.
Yeah.
But it's also just, lack of discipline, lack of, being told no. The research that I've read or looked into is that, a narcissist, it requires two components. It's nature and nurture. You have to be born with the brain structure of a narcissist, but you also have to be brought up in an environment that fosters that brain structure.
Interesting.
And so, when I was growing up, or, generations before, discipline was yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes, sir, no, sir.
Yep.
Everything was very solid. As that's kind of deteriorated, the narcissistic mindset of entitlement has kind of blossomed. So I think the physical brain structure has always been there, but it's become more pervasive
because of that.
And you can see it. The most fascinating thing, and I don't have research to back this up, it's just the observations, is if there's a family, you can see the genetic trail. Grandpa was a narcissist, dad was a narcissist, mom, and the genetics follow. People blame it a lot on conditioning, but it hasn't been. And so I'll see, if there's a husband and wife, the husband's a narcissist, the wife's not. If they've got two kids, one of the two kids generally has narcissistic tendencies, and the two narcissists will kind of form a pack and control the other two.
Oh my gosh.
It's really interesting. And I've gotten to, where I can call it now. Just somebody comes in and is like, what other of your siblings is like, it's my sister. She, so it's very predictable now, or very, you can see it very clearly.
Yeah. Which gets us to our next question, which is, golly, God help us all. How do we protect ourselves from this? And how do we keep from falling into this? How do we identify it? How do we look at ourselves if we are that codependent side, or how do we identify if we're the narcissist? Somebody once told me that if you're asking that question, you're not.
That really is it. If you were asking yourself, am I a narcissist? No.
Probably there's just no self-reflection.
Because if you think of the definition, a narcissist cannot be wrong. A narcissist cannot have flaws. Narcissism is a flaw. So if they are asking the question, they are open to the idea
of having a flaw. And it's not going to happen.
Which is impossible, yeah.
Okay, so tell us the red flags. Tell us how to protect ourselves.
Yeah. And it is, two things that are really, really important to know about narcissists is they never, ever give up and they never get tired. So before we go into the, the stages and identifying them, it's like, a narcissist, I've had clients where, the husband or the boyfriend or whatever has been wonderful for 2 or 3 years. And as soon as the ring goes on, the switch flips. Yeah. And it's almost, I don't think there's really a definition as far as, because there's some that are impatient. There's some that are, if you're not getting what you want in the first free, they're gone. But then there's the other ones that are just, it's almost like a game, like a predatory game to them. They have to get to it. But in the early stages of dating, I've just kind of compiled some things here. Don't reveal too much about yourself too quickly.
I think that's a big one, especially with the social media. Our lives are out there so much. So we're used to already having a lack of boundaries and having a lot of reveal.
Yeah.
And then part of getting to know somebody is getting to know them.
Yeah.
Right. So how do you do that if you don't reveal some?
Well, and good question. My previous career was cybersecurity. So I'm very, I don't know if paranoid's the right word.
In your previous life.
In my previous career.
With your Mensa certifications and your IT engineering stuff and all that. Yeah.
All the things. But it was, so I am on this side of paranoid on that stuff. But it really is, I guess I'll come in from the backside. If you're in an argument or discussion with a narcissist, you want to make as few words as possible. No is a complete sentence.
Okay.
And so, because if you give them more information, that's more ammunition.
So when you're first meeting somebody and you're dating, before you really figure out what you're dealing with and get a little bit further in, you need to be really cautious about trusting them and letting them fully in.
Yeah, because anything can and will be used against you in the court of narcissism.
Okay.
And so they are very good at, because the narcissist is not interested, they want to take your soul. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. They want your soul.
Wow.
It is, neurologically, there's an exchange of dopamine and serotonin. If I dominate somebody, if I get serotonin and dopamine like a drug. So if if I dominate somebody's soul, I'm doing that.
Yeah.
So revealing too much, and it's really just.
That's what narcissistic supply is, by the way.
Yeah.
That you're supplying them with that. Whatever they need to bump up their dopamine and serotonin.
And this is where, the love bombing comes in. If you give a lot of information, then they're coming at you with all the things. Second one, take it slowly. Don't loosen your boundaries too soon. And watch for their reactions when you put on the brakes.
Like when you tell them no.
That is a huge one.
It is a huge one. And, in the beginning of a relationship, especially, you want to be accommodating and pleasing and you don't want to say no or, but it is an interesting little test point. Like even on something super simple, like, do you want to go, I want to go to, this place to eat. Mm-hmm. No, I'm not up for that tonight. Just pushing that a little bit to see what happens.
Yeah. Splitting the check or whatever, because narcissists have this crippling fear of rejection. And so no is rejection. And again, that's where no is a complete sentence.
Took me a long time to learn that.
Yeah.
I've got it down pretty well now.
But if you say, if you're out on a date with a narcissist, it's like, hey, do you want to go back to my place? And you say, no, I'm really not feeling it tonight. I got to wake up early in the morning. Okay, I've got something to grab onto. Oh, I won't be there that long. But if it's just
no,
the fewer words, the better.
That makes sense.
And err on the side of they are narcissistic or at least emotionally immature. If we're not going full pathology.
Let's be kind about how we're saying it. So we're not, you can't really diagnose somebody with a personality disorder if you're not a psychiatrist or a psychologist or a counselor and they're not your client.
and I've been wrong.
Yeah.
Even then, I've got the license and I've been fooled.
Yeah.
I end up in front of in a deposition and all the demons come out that this person neglected to tell me. And so, it is. Yeah. So no, they're very good.
Yeah.
And then the last one there, trust and honor your intuition. And I'm going to add to this one, use your friends. If your friends get a vibe, listen.
Yeah, I think that's so important.
Because the narcissist is really good at finding, step 1, 2, and 3. If I find the information on you, if I find your vulnerabilities, if I exploit your vulnerabilities, you're going to be, no, this guy's great. He's wonderful. Look, he got me this thing. He listened when I like tulips. He got me tulips. It's like if your friends are getting their spidey senses,
you need to listen to that.
I don't trust me. I incorporate my friends into it. What do y'all think? Are you getting any things? And so, very much trust your intuition and your friends. And then, there is a phenomenal list of, it's the Bill of Rights for adult children of emotionally immature parents.
Awesome.
Which is very good for, really it's, I use it kind of as a barometer a lot of times because people who have never been in a narcissistic relationship or never had narcissistic parents or anything, they hear this list and they're just like, yeah, that makes sense. But people who have been subject to it, they hear the list and there's always some kind of visceral reaction to it. Like, I have the right to say no? That's a thing?
Yeah, because when you're in a narcissistic relationship, especially with a narcissistic parent, you're taught never to talk back, never to say no. You're not allowed to have that autonomy.
Right.
And it's often a punishable fault. I see that again and again. Okay, so
anyway, I'll just read through them real quickly.
I'm gonna put the link for you guys for the book there. I'll put a link for your book also down below in the YouTube notes. And we're going to put the individual things, the individual Bill of Rights things. We'll have our editor put them on the screen for you so you can see them.
That'll work. The book is Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. All right. So the right to set limits is the first one. Okay. I have the right to set limits on your hurtful or exploitive behavior. I have the right to break off any interaction in which I feel pressured or coerced. I have the right to stop anything long before I feel exhausted.
Wow.
I have the right to call a halt to any interaction I do not find enjoyable. I have the right to say no without a good reason.
What?
I know. And it's interesting. I read that one and it's like a good reason. And this is the misperception of consensual reality. Your definition of a good reason and my definition may not be the same.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Your definition, and so it's
good for you.
Yeah, my definition of a good reason is because again, that's when you add something to the tail end of, well, I don't want to go home with you because I have to work tomorrow. That's a good reason, but they'll come in and attack that.
Yeah,
and so it's holding firm, and it really is a lot of boundary things that the hardest part about boundaries is you continually have to reinforce them, and if you're reinforcing them with somebody, there's a flag. So.
If you're reinforcing the boundaries over and over again, there's a flag that needs to be tattooed on every woman's forehead. Okay, keep going.
The right not to be emotionally coerced. I have the right not to be your rescuer. I have the right to ask you to get help from someone else. I have the right not to fix your problems. I have the right to let you manage your own self-esteem without my input. I have the right to let you handle your own distress. And I have the right to refuse to feel guilty. And
wow.
Yeah, just going to read that to me again.
Wow.
Yeah. The right to emotional autonomy and mental freedom. I have the right to any and all of my feelings. I have the right to think anything I want. I have the right not to be ridiculed or mocked about my values, ideas, or interests. I have the right to be bothered by how I am treated. And I have the right not to like your behavior or attitude. This one's really important because one of the tools of the narcissist it's called identity management. And it's managing your identity. Anytime that somebody, if they're with the narcissist, anytime they do something good, they do something exceptional, they do something that elevates them, whether on purpose or on accident, has to be shut down. Because the narcissist reality is, I am superior. And so, if you got two people together, Jennifer's a teacher, and she comes home one day and says, I really connected with this kid. I really made a difference.
Yeah.
He'll say something like, really, even insignificant people can make significant things every so often. Or, well, that's just one kid. How many do you teach in a day?
Yeah.
Anything to diminish
the success.
And it's just keeping that identity suppressed.
Wow.
And so, but it works.
Yeah.
Sadly. I have the right to choose relationships. Okay, so this one is important because if a narcissist is trying to control your perception of reality, my biggest threat to your perception of reality is other people who live in reality.
Right.
So I want to isolate. I want you away. If your friends contradict me, I don't want you hanging out with them anymore.
So this one crosses the line into signs of abuse that we are trained as a gynecologist to see, with women, human trafficking and all of that. And of course, narcissism is going to cross over that. But that's a big red flag when somebody's trying to isolate you, control your phone, control your money, control your access to your friends, how you leave the house, who you spend your time with. Yeah. That's not normal in a normal, trusting relationship.
No. The subcategories of those, I have the right to know whether I love you or not. I have the right to refuse what you want to give me. That's a big one.
Yep.
I have the right not to be disloyal to myself just to make things easier for you. I have the right to end our relationship, even if we're related.
Oh.
That's a big one.
That is a big one.
I have the right to not to be depended upon. I have the right to stay away from anyone who is unpleasant or draining. And then the right to clear communications. I have the right to say anything as long as I do so in a nonviolent, non-harmful way. I have the right to ask to be listened to. I have the right to tell you my feelings are hurt. I have the right to speak up and tell you what I really prefer. I have the right to be told what you want from me without assuming I should know.
I know. Rewind that one.
Yeah, that one's, there's two really in there. The right to clear communication is, that is the thing is if you leave out, the silent treatment's a big one. I'm angry at you and I'm not going to tell you why, and I'm going to let you just stew in it and try to figure it out for yourself.
Yeah.
And if you're more of a people-pleasing type of person, you're going to want that to end as soon as possible. And so that's a real big coercion thing, letting people fill in those. That's a real big manipulation technique.
Interesting.
Just tell you enough information for you to kind of
start perseverating and stewing and feeling awful.
Yeah.
And then coming back and groveling.
What did I do? What's going on? And these are all, if you look at them externally, they're all control mechanisms. They're all, I am defining what is success, what reality is, I'm defining what's right and wrong. And all this time, I'm just chipping away at your
autonomy.
Yeah.
In your identity.
Everything.
Yeah.
And then I can reconstruct it how I want.
That's fascinating because they don't go to school and learn these things.
No.
It's just in them.
No. Sadly, there are people who teach classes on this.
Oh.
Yeah.
Not how to avoid it, but how to do it.
How to do it.
Oh my gosh, that's diabolical.
Yeah, welcome to the internet.
Okay, we're not referencing those in our show.
No.
That would be bad.
Yeah, the right to choose what's best for me. I have the right not to do things if it's not a good time for me. I have the right to leave whenever I want. I have the right to say no to activities or get-togethers I don't feel enjoyable. I have the right to make my own decisions without self-doubt. And I like that last one. The two again was, I have the right to say no to going to things, and I have the right to say no without questioning myself.
That's huge.
Yeah.
I think our viewers really need to hear that.
That's one to do in the mirror a few times. The right to live life my own way. I have the right to take action even if you don't think it's a good idea. I have the right to spend my energy and time on what I find important. I have the right to trust my inner experiences and take my aspirations seriously. I have the right to take all the time I need and not be rushed. And, again, these are all things as you need to move faster. You need to, it's all just chipping away at your soul.
Yeah.
And then reconstructing it how I want. You should be ready at this time. You should do this thing this way. It's
behave this way for me because this is my world and you're revolving around it.
It really is constructing a prison with no walls on it.
Yeah.
It's insidious. But yeah, you're right. It is. I don't know why people can do this automatically. It's still a mystery to me, but it is an automated behavior. And I think it's just they really believe that their definition of what is right in the world is the definition. Mm-hmm. And anybody who disagrees is just wrong. Just simple as that. I have the right to put my own health and well-being first. I have the right to thrive, not just survive.
That's a big one.
That's a big one.
So this is our first seed. So, for those of y'all just joining us, that we have the 7 seeds. They're the 7 topics of our show, the 7 themes. And so they go from left to right: be, heal, love, give, grow, pray, and attune. And so the B one is, how do you decide to be? How do you want to be as yourself? And that is your self-actualization. That is your self-identity. We're going to be shooting in the next couple of weeks the first book chapter where I talk about that. So this point that you just made, this last one, falls into that category really strongly. Well, and I heard a different definition of integrity recently. Integrity, being kind and honest and all those things, but also integrity in the integration standpoint of integrating your soul, your personality into the expectations of you. And sometimes you've got to change the people who expect things of you to match who you are, not lose your own identity. Interesting. Okay. And so trying to integrate all of those things. And again, it's like, if I don't feel comfortable here,
a lot of people growing up, they just, well, I just have to deal with it. It's like, no, you don't. You can say no.
Yeah.
You know, it's like one of my dad's favorite sayings. No is a complete sentence. Never liked hearing that one. But, and then the last one, oh, I'm sorry, we're going through these. I have the right to take time for myself to do what I enjoy. I have the right to decide how much energy and attention I give other people. I have the right to take time to think things over. I have the right to take care of myself regardless of what others think. And I have the right to take the time and space necessary to nourish my inner world. This one, I think, is a real important one on the introvert-extrovert thing. Mm-hmm. You know, I guess I'm an introvert. I'm an extrovert sometimes, but I need to be alone to kind of reset. Mm-hmm. And if somebody is, you know, the narcissist person is more extroverted, well, then you should be extroverted. And if they're more introverted, well, why do you want to go out? You know, and they can't comprehend that the way that they view things is not universal.
Right.
And so these are really important ones for autonomy, I believe. And then the last one is the right to protect myself.
Wow, that should have been number one. Yeah.
I think she builds it up to where the end is like really, this is, you know, the thing that brings it all together. So the right to love and protect myself. I have the right to self-compassion when I make mistakes. Do I need to read that one again? I'm reading that for me.
Oh, killing me.
It is. I have the right to change my self-concept when it no longer fits. I have the right to live my life without ridicule from anyone.
Wow.
I have the right to love myself and treat myself nicely. I have the right to be free of all self-criticism and to enjoy my individuality. I have the right to be me. That's a big one.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. You know, especially if it's a child of a narcissist and then that pattern gets established. You know, I think the narcissistic person, back to our early stages of dating.
Yeah.
You know, the right to be me first presupposes you know what me is. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a lifelong journey all by itself.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. Like if you don't have a good self-actualization, or like so many of the women that I see are dysregulated, like we talk about autonomic dysregulation, where the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems are out of whack from stress. And I don't mean like sympathetic, like I have sympathy for you. I'm talking about like sympathetic nervous system is your flight or fight, you know, and gets you going. And your parasympathetic is the brake on that. That's the chill out. That's a very binary way of looking at a very complicated system. Yeah. But when we see autonomic dysregulation, we see the classic female stressed women. We see them very stressed, often having trouble sleeping, a lot of attention problems, but they're also used to a life of chaos where they're, especially if they fall into the more codependent category of trying to keep everybody, all the balls in the air and keep everybody calm and not yelling at them because they're not getting their way. Right. It's that walking on eggshell thing.
Well, the codependent thing is the very definition of I don't know what me is because I'm dependent upon the environment to tell me.
And it falls right into it's the perfect puzzle piece for a narcissist.
Absolutely.
They're like yin and yang, right?
Well, you know, the phrase nature abhors a vacuum.
Yeah.
You've created a vacuum in your identity. There is going to be somebody who wants to fill it.
So my friends and I were talking the other day about why so many women, like why we choose the bad boys or why do we choose the narcissistic? Not just the narcissistic, but why are so many of us attracted to the thrill seekers or the bad boys? And, you know, the good guys are sitting at home and being overlooked. Like, what is that? What is that? And, you know, I was talking with my girlfriend about it. And what we decided was if our nervous system is out of whack and we're used to being in that kind of environment, then we're kind of seeking that. And it's comfortable. And then when you get healthier and you get balanced and form your identity and aren't so codependent, then those people aren't quite as attractive and you start looking for the good guys.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at, the dysregulation you're talking about, you equate it, I guess, to a boat in a storm and they see an island of, confidence and solidity and predictability. And, it's like, oh, that's, I can grab onto that because that's something solid and predictable and not chaotic.
Yeah.
But, conversely, if somebody is used to absolute chaos and absolute, they really have a hard time, I see with a lot of people who like move to San Antonio from, say, New York or Chicago or something where there's constant sound and constant stimulation. And it's quiet here.
It's uncomfortable. Yeah.
But you see it, I do a lot of trauma therapy, with military personnel and things like that. And a lot of people will come back from combat and come here. And it's like, you can't get on a plane in some war-torn country and get off the plane here 24 hours later and leave it there. Your sympathetic nervous system is still like, cranking.
Yeah.
They want to go back just to get in an environment that matches what they're feeling in here.
So fascinating.
Yeah. And so it is all, like I said, the parasympathetic nervous system, calming down all of those things, getting that confidence and establishing who we are as individuals, and then taking that and going forward and seeing where it fits and where it can mold with somebody else.
And seeing the red flags.
Oh, the red flags are, yeah. There's a lot of those.
Thank you for listening to part 1. If you enjoyed that, please like and share with your friends. Share it with people who need to know about this. And we have more coming. So check out part 2. Thanks for listening to this episode of Becoming Virtuosa. To learn more, come visit us at drcrockett.com. That's drcrockett with 2 T's.com. Or find us on YouTube for The Dr. Crockett Show. If you found this episode helpful or think it might help someone else, please like, subscribe, and share. This is how we grow together. Thanks, and I'll see you next week. Love always, Sue.